Chapter 7, Leviathan vs. Ancient Dragon. So, I was wondering, just how much longer is this dungeon gonna go on for? By that, do you mean for how many more floors? That too, but I'd also love to know how much longer we're gonna be stuck on this floor. We'd been in the dungeon for almost 20 days. I was feeling a serious hankering to get back to the surface, and recently, a secondary issue had been growing more and more pressing by the moment. That issue. The silent pressure I'd started feeling from the members of ARC ever since their discussion the night I'd served them turtle meat. It's not that I disliked any of them, to be clear. They were all nice people, but I still really didn't like the idea that they might suggest we make our temporary party permanent. The brutally honest truth was that from my perspective, all that would mean was that I'd have more to worry about with no real benefit on my end. My hands were already full with the gluttonous quartet, and taking on more responsibilities was just beyond me. As such, the moment we got out of the dungeon I was planning on bringing us right back to Ronkainen and saying my goodbyes post-haste. As far as deeper floors are concerned, that's simple enough. There aren't any, Gun replied. Indeed. This floor seems to be the final one, Fel confirmed. Knowing how keen their senses were, I didn't see any reason to doubt them. Oh, seriously? It's over after this floor? That sucks. This was such a good one too, said Dora-chan, who had been listening in. Sway wanted it to keep going for way longer. Sway moaned in disappointment. It's a shame, but I guess that's that, I said. Internally, of course, I was beside myself with relief. We'd made it through the dungeon easily enough so far, but from an even remotely normal perspective, its design seemed to be about as brutal as a dungeon could get. The swamp on floor 1 was bad enough, but the ocean was a step above even that, and both of them had been outlandishly huge. We never would have made it this far without my familiars, and we never would have even made it past the first island on floor 2 without dragging a boat all the way down here, preferably a full-blown sailing ship. All that being said, I had a terrible feeling about what I'd just heard. So, wait. If this is the final floor, does that mean there's still a ways to go before we're done with it? Heh. Worry not, the end will be upon us soon enough. There is not much farther to go now. Grahahaha, indeed, and I must say, I'm rather excited at the prospect. Back up, what? What was that laughter supposed to mean? I'm definitely getting the feeling you two are gearing up for some sort of huge battle. You're making me worry again, so cut it out. 3 more days had passed since Fel and Gan had told me that this was the dungeon's final floor, and we'd spent the last 2 of those days sailing non-stop. Fel and Gan had informed us that there were no further islands beyond a certain point, the final island aside, so we hadn't had much of a choice in the matter. That final island was where we'd find the boss of the floor and, for that matter, the final boss of the whole dungeon. Dora-chan, Sway, and I had all asked Fel and Gan what that boss would be, but all they'd told us was to look forward to it. That wouldn't have been reassuring even on a good day, and the suspicious grins they'd been wearing made it all the worse. I was getting more and more concerned by the day, and not just about the boss. How are you doing, Sway? You've been swimming without a break for ages. You sure you're all right? I asked. Sway's fine, Master. Sway's doing super great, Sway replied. Oh, well, just tell us if you're getting tired. Okay. There were no islands for Sway to rest on, so there wasn't really any other choice than for it to keep swimming regardless, but I still felt bad for putting such a heavy burden on it. I had invoked my authority as the person making our food to give Sway extra large portions at meal and snack time, at least, under the justification that it had been working without rest for ages and deserved a little bonus. Sway had been ecstatic and made a big deal about how special it was that it got extra, but that didn't stop me from feeling guilty. Oh, and needless to say, I couldn't cook anything fresh while on the slime's back, so we'd been eating nothing but pre-made food from my item box since the voyage began. Sorry about this, I said to Sway. It feels like you're the one doing all the hard work for us. Hang in there, though. It's almost over. Okay, Sway replied. I promise that I'll make you all your favorite foods when we get home too, alright? Really? Hooray. Sway squealed with an excited jiggle. Whoa, careful there. You'll knock someone off if you keep wobbling like that. Oops. Sorry, Sway said, then started singing a happy, but also very out of tune, little song about all its favorite foods, from courage to hamburger steak. Hey, why is Sway receiving such special treatment? Fel growled with an irritable scowl. Oh, can it, you? I snapped back. Sway gets special treatment because it's been carrying us this whole time without a break. Are you telling me you don't think that's even a little noteworthy? No, that is not. And besides, it's all thanks to Sway that we managed to get this far to begin with. That is, indeed, true. And now you're complaining about it getting special treatment. I sighed. Around that point, I noticed that my little lecture had an audience. Eekers. Glad I didn't decide to complain. Better indeed to keep your mouth firmly shut in times such as these, Dora. Words alone can spell disaster, after all. You should take this as a learning opportunity. Watch Fel's example, and do better than him in the future. Solid plan, yup. I know that I'm the one giving the lecture in the first place, so maybe I shouldn't say this, but yeesh, Gan and Dora, you sure aren't sparing your party member much sympathy. I guess they're not wrong about keeping your mouth shut being a good idea, though. Meanwhile, on the other side of the party. Damn, did you see that? He's got the Fenrir completely tamed. Right. Can it, he said. And now he's scolding it. You could travel the whole wide world and not find another man who can talk that way to a Fenrir, that's for sure. Wow. ARC's members were whispering behind my back, though of course, I heard every word of it. Look, even I have times when I have to speak my mind, okay? And besides, I'm an old hand at dealing with Fel's attitude, given how long I've been traveling with him. Suddenly, Sway shuddered. Whoa! I yelped, just barely managing to keep my balance. The sea is growing rougher, it seems, Fel observed. Now that you mention it, the weather has shifted quite a bit recently, I noted. Before I knew it, the bright blue summer sky had grown dark and overcast. The sea had been calm for most of the trip, but now the waves were starting to pick up, and some of them were big enough to send a jolt through Sway. Hey, aren't there any monsters around? I haven't seen even one of them all day, Dora-chan called out. Now that he mentions it. Yeah, you're right. I haven't seen any either. We'd been dealing with monster after monster for days on end, but suddenly, that well had run dry. That would be because we are now quite close indeed, Gun said. Precisely. It will not be long at all. We will likely reach our destination tomorrow. Our destination, meaning the last island? I asked. Fel and Gun nodded in unison. I guess that must mean the final boss is right around the corner as well. Okay, so out with it, what is the boss gonna be? I asked once again, and got nothing but a pair of smirks in response. Gah, would you two jerks just tell me, already? Che, how long is it gonna stay like this? I shouted, doing my best to be audible over the roar of the raging winds. Rain fell in torrents, and massive waves rolled across the surface of the sea. Our party had sailed its way straight into a brutally powerful storm. The weather had been getting worse and worse as we approached the final island, until it eventually devolved into an outright tempest. Fel, Gan, and Dora-chan seemed unperturbed by the weather, though Dora-chan was hanging on to Gan and Sway was having a blast riding the waves, but ARC's members and I were forced to cling to Sway's back for dear life, and it took all of our strength to do so. Not long at all. We have nearly reached our quarry, Fel shouted back. Yes, indeed. It is almost time, Gun shouted as well. The two of them sounded as excited as could be. It had better be, because at this rate, the weather's gonna kill us before the final boss gets the chance. If any of us falls into the ocean in a storm like this, we're doomed, no two ways about it. Just do something about this, please. I don't even care what. Humans truly are feeble creatures. Why not enjoy the rare chance to experience such a storm? Fel said with a fed-up shake of his head as he looked at me and the members of ARC. Enjoy it. What's there to enjoy about a raging typhoon, you moron? I screamed. In my defense, I think anyone would have snapped if they were put into a situation like that. Moron? Fel huffed indignantly. I was about to raise a barrier, but on second thought, I have reconsidered. Oh, calm yourself, Fel, Gun sighed. Humans really are fragile, you know? They're liable to be swept away if we don't protect them, my liege in particular. Perhaps so, but calling me a moron of all things was a step too far. There, Gun said as he patted Fel's shoulder. What's most important is that he remains safe, is it not? We need him if we want its meat to be prepared in the most delectable manner possible, don't we? Perhaps, yes. It's been a long, long time since I've had the chance to taste meat of its kind. I'm sure the same is true of you, no? It is indeed. And you know how delectable it is, even uncooked. Just imagine the sort of dish he could make of it. Don't you want to try that? I do, Fel said with a heavy sigh. I shall raise a barrier, much as it galls me to do so. I trust you will help, Gun. Of course. With both of our barriers in place, no storm could ever be strong enough to move even a hair on their heads. Fel and Gun quickly made good on their word, putting up a barrier around us. There was nothing they could do about the motion of the waves, of course, but the howling winds and pounding rains came to a stop in an instant. ARC's members and I could finally breathe easy again. I sighed with relief. It's finally over. I wasn't sure we'd make it through that one, Gideon said. I thought we were already dead for a minute there, Gideon groaned. I've never seen a worse storm, that's for certain, Sigvard said. I could see my departed first husband, beckoning me to the other side, Theodora added. Unfortunately, our moment of rest wasn't to last. Hey, master, something really, really big just showed up, Sway said. Hot damn, that's a big gun, all right, Dora-chan exclaimed. At long last, Fel shouted. It's finally shown itself, then, Gun said. I looked up to see what everyone was talking about, and what I saw left me utterly speechless. My jaw dropped, and for a moment, all I could do was stand there and gape at the monster that had appeared. Its long, narrow body was wound around an island that lay before us, almost as if to protect it, and its gaze was pointed directly at us. A Leviathan, Fel said. Some call them the sovereign lords of the sea, Gun noted. Dora, Sway, do not interfere. This is a foe the two of you may not yet be prepared to face. TCH, I don't like it, but fine. Sway wanted to pew-pew the big fishy. Come on, Sway. I hate to admit it, but he's right. The two of us probably couldn't beat that thing yet. You gotta know when you're not up to a task. Boo. Nope. Sway, there is absolutely no way I'm letting you fight that thing, and while we're on the subject, what the hell is that thing? Has my sense of scale completely broken down? It's wrapped around an island, and from the looks of it, it's not even a particularly small one. And don't think I'm giving you a sanity pass here either, Dora-chan. Sure, you admitted that you couldn't beat it, but you also made it sound like you would take it on if you thought there was even a chance you could win. That's nuts, and Fel and Gan are even crazier for actually going for it. Why would seeing a monster like that make them look excited, of all things? You're all insane. Now, it is time. Move us toward the beast, Sway. Okay. That brief exchange snapped me back to my senses. What? No, stoop. Nope, absolutely not. Why would you bring us closer to that thing? Are you trying to get us killed? Why would you ever assume such a thing? You are still under the protection of my barrier, as well as Gen's, are you not? There is not the slightest chance that you will perish here. Maybe it'll block its attacks physically, sure, but the psychological damage is gonna be critical. If you bring us close to that thing, we'll all be dead of heart attacks before you know it. Literally. My heart's already trying to pound its way out of my chest, for your information. And you want me to get even closer? That's a surefire recipe for cardiac arrest. Enough of your gutless ramblings. Would that you could correct this flaw in your character, Fell grumbled. It's not just me this time, thank you very much. Ark's here too, and they're in the same boat as me, isn't that right, Gadino? Arg. I yelped as I turned around and found all 4 members of Ark in a daze, their faces white as sheets. Oh, God, they look like they've already dropped dead. Gadino? Gideon? Sigvard? Theodora? Talk to me, guys. I crawled over to Ark's members, calling their names and shaking them by the shoulders, but none of them said a word. For a second, I thought they might actually be dead and fearfully checked for a pulse. Oh, phew. Still alive after all. We're all good, I said with relief. They were definitely alive and breathing, just pallid and entirely immobile. Did they pass out with their eyes open? Ooh. One look at a Leviathan was all it took to render them unconscious. Pathetic, Fell grumbled with a roll of his eyes. Pathetic yourself. There's nothing pathetic about that. I wish I'd passed out right along with them. My liege, Fell, I hate to interrupt, but it seems our foe has no intention of waiting for you to finish, Gunn said. The Leviathan had opened its mouth wide, and a white light was beginning to build up inside it. Ah. IIT's got a breath weapon? Me. This would not have been an issue if you had not insisted upon complaining. Don't try blaming this on me, Fell. It seems there's no choice but for me to handle this. Send a dragon to fight a dragon, as they say. I shall teach it which species is the true pinnacle of all dragonkind, Gunn said before spreading his wings and lifting off from Sway's back. What? How dare you, Gunn? My liege is floundering and helpless. Someone has to take care of him, and besides, this is a rare opportunity for me to show him my worth. I am the newcomer to our party, after all. Try to understand and grant me this one round, Fell. Fell clicked his tongue. Fine, but do not forget you owe me for this. Gunn soared up into the stormy sky. Then, when he was a safe distance away from us, he returned to his true form in all its massive glory, an ancient black dragon so enormous, its sheer scale rivaled that of the Leviathans. It was the sort of image you'd expect to hear described in ancient legends. Chimpy. Insolent whelp, Gunn muttered. The Leviathan was still charging up its attack, but before it could unleash it, Gunn interrupted the process with a powerful uppercut, slamming the monster's jaw closed. I could hear its massive teeth gnashing together all the way from my perch aboard Sway. The Leviathan toppled backward, slamming into the surface of the sea, and raising a roaring tidal wave that swept right into us. Whoa! I yelped, crouching down and clinging to Sway. Our barriers are still in effect. You will not fall into the sea, Fell said. He didn't even look at me, though. His eyes were glued to Gunn's battle with the Leviathan. Hell yeah. You got this, Gunn, Dora-chan shouted. You're so strong, old man Gunn, Sway cheered as well. The two of them were perfectly content to sit back and enjoy the show. I, on the other hand, was more or less a babbling wreck. A scene straight out of a Kiju movie was playing out before my eyes, and I had no clue what I was supposed to do about any of it. The Leviathan, meanwhile, had hoisted itself upright again and unleashed a furious, bellowing roar at Gunn. You may be the sovereign of the sea, but I reign over all domains, land, sea, and air, Gunn shouted. He reached out in a swift, powerful motion, taking hold of the Leviathan's body directly beneath its head, then leaning in and biting down. He held fast for just a moment, then wrenched his head backward, tearing out a massive chunk of the beast's flesh. The Leviathan let loose another eye-splitting wail, this time laced with equal parts fury, horror, and pain. Blue blood flowed down its long, snake-like body, and it looked like it had barely escaped decapitation by the skin of its teeth, in the sense that its head was only hanging on by a flap of skin. Your meat is delicious indeed, but I'm sure it will be much better cooked than it is raw, Gunn casually observed as he chewed on the chunk of Leviathan flesh, blood dripping down his chin. HMPH, Fell huffed. I could have defeated it just as easily. Also, Who reigns over all domains? Say that when you have bested me in strength. Woo. You rule, Gan. Dora-chan cheered. That was amazing. Sway squealed. While Fel, Dora-chan, and Sway were all celebrating or critiquing Gan's battle, I was busy trying to escape from reality entirely. Ha ha ha. This is a dream. Yep. Totally dreaming right now, I babbled. The very small part of my mind still capable of rational thought was fixated on the fact that even though the Leviathan's blood was blue, it smelled just like the ordinary, red blood that people had. Well, that and the fact that I was deeply jealous of ARC's members, who had spent that entire traumatizing spectacle blissfully unconscious. Gun's battle with the Leviathan had ended in the ancient dragon's crushing victory. Much to my surprise, however. That thing's corpse isn't disappearing, huh? Sure isn't, Dora-chan said. That's so weird. Sway piped up. The storm had abruptly died down, possibly because the Leviathan had been killed and we were left floating peacefully in a calm, quiet ocean. Gun was still holding the creature's corpse aloft, but no matter how much time passed, it didn't disappear and leave behind its drop items like dungeon monsters usually did. Perhaps it is the body itself? Fel suggested. Perhaps what is the body itself? I asked. I mean, perhaps the body itself is the creature's drop, Fel continued, gesturing at the gargantuan corpse before us. I took a very long moment to ponder the possibility. You mean, the whole thing? No, that can't be it. There's just no way, I finally said. That's not how dungeon drops are supposed to work. And we know this dungeon isn't an exception since all the monsters we've beaten on the way here have disappeared and left stuff behind, the same as always. Fel may be correct, my liege, Gun chimed in. There is precedent. Long ago, when I was young. Gun launched into a story about how in his younger days, he'd decided to explore a dungeon to stave off his boredom. Apparently, the same thing had happened to him back then. All the monsters he'd beaten along the way to the final boss had dropped chunks of meat and other assorted items, but the final boss itself, which was a giant bull monster called a Kujata, incidentally, hadn't disappeared at all. What? A Kujata? Fel bellowed, springing to his feet for some reason I couldn't fathom. What dungeon was this? He demanded, his eyes wide with keen interest. Oh, where was it? Gun said, then paused for a long time to think. I've forgotten, he finally concluded. Really, Gun? You remembered all those details, but that's the one thing you ended up forgetting? Fel clicked his tongue irritably. It seems age has stricken you with senility, old one, he grumbled. What? It most certainly has not, Gun snapped back. It has clouded your mind, at the very least. Why else would you lose such a pertinent piece of information? I already told you, I forgot, that's all. I am far from certain of that. Fel and Gun were glaring daggers at each other. Clearly, someone had to intervene. Come on, guys, calm down, I scolded. We just got done witnessing a Leviathan versus ancient dragon battle, and frankly, I've had my fill of ridiculous Kiju showdowns for one day, thank you very much. I'm not even slightly interested in following it up with a Fenrir versus ancient dragon match. My liege, I know for a fact that Fel is simply lashing out since he knows how delicious a Kujata's meat is, Gun said. I figured it'd be something along those lines, I sighed. I turned to give Fel a look. Those bull creatures are delicious indeed. Is it so wrong for me to wish to partake of them again? Fel grumbled. He couldn't deny the accusation, so he decided to get defensive about it instead. I decided not to pursue that whole matter any further, instead turning my gaze back toward the Leviathan corpse that Gun was holding. Yeah, it really doesn't look like it's going to drop anything, I muttered. We'd gone on quite the lengthy digression, and it had shown no sign of disappearing over the course of our chat. I guess that means Fel and Gun are right, and the corpse is its own drop. But that would mean... Are we supposed to bring it back with us? I asked. Of course we are, Fel said. A Leviathan's meat is delicious indeed. Why would we choose to leave it? Quite Quite, Gun agreed. Moreover, this Leviathan was remarkably large, even compared to the rest of its kind. That means there will be plenty of meat available for the taking. Never gotten a chance to eat Leviathan yet, and there's no way in hell I'm letting this one slip by, Dora-chan said. Sway wants to eat it too, Sway added. My familiars made it sound like hauling the Leviathan home was the most obvious thing in the world, but I had a funny feeling none of them were thinking about its size. It was in a completely different dimension than the other monsters we'd fought, in terms of scale. It dwarfed an island, for crying out loud. Would that thing even fit in my item box? I muttered skeptically. The item boxes granted to heroes or, well, to people who had been summoned to this world were supposed to be pretty darn big, but that big? I wasn't so sure. Guess there's no harm in giving it a shot. Can you bring it over here, Gun? Certainly, Gun said, then flapped his massive wings and lugged the corpse toward me. Okay, now bring its head around to face me. Ugh, gross. I thought as, with Gun's help, I attempted to shove the Leviathan's barely attached head into my item box. And then, lo and behold, it fit. It certainly did. All right, Leviathan meat's on the table for sure now. Yippee. The entire massive Leviathan had sort of slid its way into my item box, just like that. I was starting to feel a little terrified by the thought of how large my storage capacity apparently was. Very good. Now, let us make landfall. Hell yeah. Landfall. Just a minute, I shouted. Fell, Dora-chan, and Sway were all ready to head for the island, but I sure wasn't. How exactly are you planning on making landfall there, anyway? The shore in front of us wasn't so much a peaceful beach as it was a sheer rocky cliffside. There was nowhere to make landfall on in the first place. We will climb, of course, Fell said in a tone that made it clear he really did think that was obvious. You want us to climb up there? That's not the sort of climb a normal human can pull off, I protested. I sure as hell can't manage it, and I'm not even the biggest problem this time. Look, we'll talk about this, but only after everyone from Ark is awake again. Oh, yes. Them. What, did you actually forget about the other party that's traveling with us? I went over to the members of Ark, who were all still entirely unconscious, and started shaking their shoulders, calling out to each of them in turn. Gadino, Gideon, Sigvard, Theodora, wake up, I said, but not even one of them moved a muscle or attempted to reply. They're really down for the count, I guess. Sorry about this. I resorted to giving them each a gentle slap on the cheek. That finally got a response, and the light of consciousness slowly returned to their eyes. Gah, what was I just doing? Gadino muttered. It feels like I saw something completely unbelievable, Gideon said. A Leviathan. A Leviathan. Sigvard wailed. Theodora quietly moaned. Ark's members were awake again, technically, but they were still ashen-faced and just as panicked as they'd been before they checked out. It's okay, everyone. Calm down, I said. The four of them turned to face me. It's over already. Nothing left to worry about, honestly. The expressions of Ark's members took a turn for the incredulous. It's over, Gadino said. Yup, I replied. So, it's dead? Gideon asked. Right. We handled it. You handled a goddamned Leviathan? Sigvard said. Well, we had an ancient dragon on our side, so. Really? Theodora asked. Yes, really. That finally convinced them. Relief spread across their faces. So, long story short, we're about to make landfall on that island over there. It's supposed to be the end of the dungeon, so we'll finally be able to go back to the surface. We're going home? Really? At long last. Thank the gods we made it out alive. The surface. Right. Let's get out of here, I said. And I think I know how we can get there. Can you carry all of us up onto that island, Gun? Certainly, Gun replied, then stooped down in front of us, bringing his back nearly down to sea level. Fel jumped onto Gun's back first. Dora-chan would be flying on his own, apparently, so ARC's members and I crawled up his hind legs to get aboard next. Then, last of all. Okay, everyone's on board. Come on up, Sway. Okay. Sway returned to its usual size and quickly climbed up to the rest of us. Okay, Gun, take it away. Very well. Gun soared into the air, carrying us up above the island in what felt like a single bound. Its terrain was rocky and rugged, without any vegetation to speak of, but I could see what looked like the entrance to a cave right around its midpoint. That must be the place, Gun said. He landed before the cave entrance, and we all climbed down from his back before he shrunk down once more. All right, let's head in, I said. Our party made its way into the cave. It wasn't long before the passageway opened up into a small, dome-shaped room, at the center of which lay a treasure chest, I muttered, then gulped, loudly. It was an undecorated wooden box, but it was also oddly wide and looked like no treasure chest I'd encountered so far. Is it trapped? I do not know, and I do not care to check. I will open it, Fel said. Before I could stop him, he dexterously unlatched the box with his forelimb and pushed it right open. FSC. And, just like that, a cloud of black gas surged from the box, engulfing Fel entirely. Whoa! Fel! I shouted. There is no cause for concern. It is poisonous gas, nothing more, Fel replied. I think poisonous gas is a pretty big cause for concern, actually. My liege, poison has no effect upon him, Gun reminded me as I started to panic. Right. He's got a blessing, so he'll be fine. Same for me, not to mention you, Dora-chan added. That helped me regain a little of my composure. Oh, right, I forgot. The visual spectacle of the poison cloud had freaked me out for a moment, but there was no way it had any chance of doing any serious harm to Fel. Master, look. It's full of shinies, said Sway, who'd paid no attention to my panic and instead moved up next to Fel to peer into the chest as the cloud dispersed. Looks like everything's fine after all, I said. Should we take a look too? The members of ARC looked slightly horrified, but they nodded in agreement and followed after me. An unremarkable reward. Yes, agreed. Hardly a fitting prize for felling a Leviathan. Right. I mean, another box of nothing but gold? Come on. Fel, Gan, and Dora-chan were being as unreasonably judgmental as ever. I did have to admit, though, that when I looked into the chest myself, my first impression was that it was pretty heavy on the gold and light on everything else. There was more than just gold coins too. I could see a golden bracelet, golden rings, a golden crown, a golden goblet, and even more gold knickknacks packed into the chest from end to end. There were two exceptions, however, a distinctive two-point spear and what looked like a worn-out piece of fabric, both half buried in gold. Whoa, Gadino said with a gulp. God damn, Gideon muttered. Never seen that much gold in my life before, Sigvard remarked. It's overflowing, Theodora added. Seeing the contents of the chest had all four of them trembling with shock. So, how about we split it 5 ways? I suggested. What are you talking about, Mukouda? This is the reward for beating the Leviathan, and that was all you. We had nothing to do with it, and we have no right to take any of this. Gadino protested. He seemed pretty flustered, which was a rarity for him, but on the other hand, Gideon, Sigvard, and Theodora were all nodding in vigorous agreement. Is that really how it works? I already have more gold than I know what to do with, though not to brag or anything, and I don't have any use for the golden accessories and stuff other than selling them. It'd actually spare me a lot of trouble if they'd take some of it off my hands. Anyway, as for that spear and the fabric, I decided to give the 2 unusual elements in the chest a surreptitious appraisal, starting with the spear. Magic spear bident. A scarletite spear capable of slaying any foe in a single thrust when imbued with magic. PFFF. I choked on nothing. What? Seriously? I thought it was just swords. They make spears like this too? Magic spears are a thing. Oh, a magic spear, is it? It has been some time since I last saw a magic weapon of this kind, Fel said. A rare find indeed. This alone is a worthy prize in and of itself. You'd do well to wield it, my liege, Gun added. I really wish you two hadn't said that. They'd said it out loud too, meaning that all of ARC's members had heard every word of it. See? They're gaping at us all over again. So, think you could use this, Gideon? I asked, hopeful that I'd be able to shove the problem off on ARC's resident spearman. Please don't even joke about that, Mukouda, Gideon replied, politely but firmly shutting that idea down straight away. I wasn't kidding, though. This thing belongs in the hands of an actual expert, not some fair-weather spearman like me. I guess there's no point trying to force the issue, though. Next up, I appraised the piece of fabric. Magic bag, large. A magic bag with the carrying capacity of 100 large non-magical bags. Has no effect on the passage of time within. Oh, I guess it was a magic bag, not some old rag. It was roughly bag-shaped, on closer inspection. It lacked any sort of strap, but that certainly wouldn't make it unusable, and I figured it would be easy enough to add one later. That being said, I had my item box, which apparently still had free space even after taking in a whole Leviathan, and I also already owned several magic bags on top of it, so I figured there'd be no harm in letting ARC have that one. I'll ask my familiars about it. Can't imagine they'll complain about giving it away, seeing as it's not meat. Hey, guys, I said telepathically, looks like this is a magic bag. Would anyone mind if I offered it to ARC's people? It came as no surprise that my familiars couldn't have cared less. Fel replied with a disinterested do as you will, and that was the end of that. With my familiar's permission given, I held the bag out toward ARC's members. So, looks like this is a magic bag. It's all yours, if you want it, I said. The four of them stiffened up in an instant, then informed me that they could not, under any circumstances, accept something that valuable. I just didn't get it. I had more than enough carrying capacity to work with already, so I had no reason to want yet another bag for myself. Well, we're scheduled to go back to Ronkainen together after this, so I guess I can bring it up with them again after we arrive. We should probably get moving now, though. We exited the chamber with the chest in it and soon arrived in yet another dome-shaped room, this one with a magic circle scrawled on its floor. My familiars, the members of ARC, and I all stepped onto it. All right, next stop, topside, I said. This was an amusing dungeon indeed. Perhaps I shall return someday, Fel said casually. Heh, you have got to be kidding, Fel. Like hell am I ever setting foot in this stupid. Before I could finish putting Fel's idea down for good, a bright light began to spill from the magic circle and we were whisked away. At long last, our party stepped out into the sunlit brilliance of the surface world once more. Ah, finally, I exclaimed. Man, there's nothing like natural sunlight, I swear. Oh, how you exaggerate, Fel grumbled. Not even a little. I think anyone would be relieved to see the real sun after going through a hellish dungeon like that one. Was it truly so severe? Gun asked. Nah, no way. It was fun, no ifs, ands, or buts about it, Dora-chan said. Yeah, Sway had tons of fun, Sway squealed. Well, sure, it was probably fun for you four. You guys got to have your fill of dungeon crawling, after all. We, on the other hand, we're alive. We actually made it back alive. We really did. I can't believe it, but we got out of there in one piece. And thank the gods for that. Never heard of a dungeon like that before, and I hope I never do again. It's a wonderful thing to be alive. ARC's members, all of whom, again, were veteran adventurers, were moved to tears by the sheer joy of being back on the surface, alive and well. I knew exactly how they felt. Like, I really got them. That dungeon had been too cruel for humankind, plain and simple. We'd only made it through thanks to Fel, Gan, Dora-chan, and Sway. We would have been toast without them, and any ordinary party of adventurers would have found themselves up against an impassable roadblock practically the moment they stepped inside. Getting through the absurdly huge marshland of the first floor alone would take a ridiculous amount of time and effort, and it was terrifyingly easy to imagine someone carelessly advancing past the point they could actually get back from and winding up stuck. Even if a party did luck out and make it past the first floor, they'd still have the second floor waiting for them, and that was even worse. The sort of despair an adventurer would feel after finally conquering the first floor only to be greeted by an ocean seemed liable to drive them to crazed, cackling madness. In short, unless some party out there had members as tough as the gluttonous quartet, I couldn't see how anyone else would have even the slightest chance of making it through this dungeon. Savage felt like the only word that could do it justice, but anyway, all that could wait until some other time. Let's head back to Ronkainen, okay? I suggested. The members of ARC needed no convincing, and while my familiars looked a little sad to say goodbye to the dungeon, I was so ready to get the hell out of there as fast as possible that their wistful gazes didn't affect me one bit. And so we climbed aboard Gun's back and set off, making our way back to Ronkainen in the same way we'd traveled to the dungeon in the first place. The trip to Ronkainen went by without a hitch, and Gun touched down in the same region outside the city where we'd taken off from before. The one change was that when we climbed off his back this time around, Gideon and Sigvard were totally calm and composed. In Gideon's words, just about everything we found in that dungeon was way scarier than flying could ever be. Sigvard expressed a similar sentiment, telling me that after all the nightmares I saw down there, something like this couldn't make me bat an eyelash. Both of them looked, in a word, traumatized. Well, should we head into town? I suggested. It matters not to me, so long as we eat before embarking upon any other task, Fel said. Indeed. I'm famished, Gun agreed. Tell me about it, Dora-chan groused. Sway's super hungry too, Sway added. Oh, is it that late already? In that case, I guess we should head straight back to the house we rented. Oh, wait, I forgot that I gave back the keys before leaving for the dungeon. Renting another place seems like it'd be a pain, though, especially considering I've already finished everything I wanted to do in that city. Oh. Then why not have our meal here and now? That's actually not a bad idea, Fel. And once we're finished eating, we can head home to Carolina right away. Yeah, I like this plan. Let's do it. My half of the party was in agreement, but the other half had something to say about our plan of action. What? No way. That's not an option, Mukouda, Gideon said. You can't leave before you report to the Adventurers Guild and tell them about the dungeon. Right, boss. Right, Gadino said. Couldn't have said it better myself. But, wait, that dungeon's not even in this country, I protested. I have to tell the Ronkainen branch about it, even though it's not under their jurisdiction. Yes, you do, Gadino said. According to him, any adventurer who discovered a new dungeon was obligated by guild charter to report back about it. That said, this dungeon was located within the cluster of small nations across the border, and the mercenaries operating in the area apparently knew it was there, so calling it completely undiscovered was a bit of a stretch. In fact, Gadino speculated that the guild was likely already aware of its existence and just hadn't made a move on it on account of the mercenaries guild having the greater authority in the region. Still, the fact that we'd cleared the dungeon meant that we were absolutely obligated to tell the guild. My shoulders slumped as I listened to Gadino's explanation. I guess I'm gonna have to rent a place in Ronkainen again after all, huh? Having to make a report would be a real nuisance, and I wanted nothing more than to blow it off and go home to Carolina without saying a word to the guild. We'd cleared dungeons in Dolan, Arvaling, and Brixed before, and all 3 times when I'd gone in to report our success, the conversation had turned into an exhausting and time-consuming interrogation. Worse still, they'd expected answers as detailed as I could possibly make them. I'd really had no choice but to report about the dungeons I'd cleared before, since they'd all been located in dungeon cities. This time, however, it had not only not been in a city but had also been across a border in a region where nobody even lived. I'd thought that I'd finally be spared the hassle this time around, but I knew that Gideon was right, and clearing the dungeon meant I didn't have any excuses that could get me out of it. Oh, but, wait a minute. It's not like we cleared the dungeon on our own, did we? Ark was right there with us the whole time. Hey, Gadino, I said. About that report, does it, have to come from me specifically? What do you mean? Gadino asked. Well, the thought occurred to me that you guys cleared the dungeon just as much as we did, that's all. Oh, I guess we technically did, when you put it that way. Right. So the thing is, I was kinda hoping that you and your party would be willing to handle that whole report for us. Gadino paused for a moment to think through my proposal. And, ultimately, all right. We can do that, he said. Really? Thank you so much. Oh, and in that case, I said, then started bringing out the sea serpent drops I'd been holding onto for Ark and shoving them into the magic bag that we'd found in the treasure chest from before. I'll put all your drops into the bag, and you can keep it as fair trade for taking care of the report. Hopefully you'll get some use out of it. Are you kidding me? Gadino said. That's an insane reward for handling a dungeon report. Oh, but I insist. That's not how this works, Mukouda. Oh, but it is, Gadino. Our back and forth went on for some time past that point, but in the end, I managed to convince, or rather, strong-arm Gadino into accepting the magic bag. All right, then. I'm sure we'll see you again sometime, Gadino said. Been great working with you, Mukouda, Gideon called out. Split a bottle of your good stuff with me again sometime, eh? Sigvard said. And your food too, Theodora added. With those final shouts, the four adventurers set off on their way back to Ronkainen. Sounds good. I'll have plenty of good food and drink waiting for you next time we meet, so be sure to come visit me in Carolina sometime, I shouted, waving as they strode off into the distance. And so, we part ways, Fel said. Yeah, looks like. And now, we eat. Oh, couldn't you have waited at least, I dunno, a minute, Fel? I was having a moment. Your moment can wait until my hunger is sated. I have to say, my liege, I am famished as well. Hard same dot. Sway too. There you have it. All of us are hungry, so prepare a meal at once. Okay, I get it. At my familiar's incessant urging, I pulled some pre-made steak sandwiches out of my item box. We enjoyed a hearty, filling meal, then finally set off ourselves, making our way back toward Carolina.